Hi, folks. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to get started in maybe like 30 or so seconds, but please take the next half a minute or so to get situated, ask any questions you have in the chat or the Q&A, look at some of the links we have on the right side of your screen, do whatever you need to do to get settled in for a really awesome webinar that we have today. And we have folks joining from all over the US and Canada. So if you want to share in the chat where exactly you're joining from, that would be awesome. I can go first. I'm joining from Raleigh, North Carolina. So we have Ontario, Florida. I see we have Georgia, Texas, Minnesota. Awesome. Well, while folks are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lindsay Josephs, and I work on the higher education marketing team here at Openstax. And today we are joined by Alina Shayed, Divya Sharma, Nupa Kyriakos, and Zainab Nomani, who are student content developers at the Open Education Lab, as well as Pranjal Saloni, who is the Open Education Lab coordinator. Our incredible Open Ed Lab representatives dive into their content. We're just going to do a brief introduction to Openstax. Then our speakers will introduce themselves, the incredible work that they're doing at the Open Ed Lab, and answer your audience questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to share them in the attendee chat or the Q&A, and we are more than happy to answer them. Some folks in the call may be familiar with Openstax, but if you're new to Openstax, here are just 4 key things you'll want to know about who we are. Openstax is an educational initiative based out of Rice University in Houston, Texas. Rice is a 401c3 nonprofit charitable organization. Openstax is part of a nonprofit institution, and as a result, we are able to sustain our operations and achieve our mission due to philanthropic support. We receive generous philanthropic support from foundations, individual donors, governmental grants, and our technology partners who give Openstax mission support fees in exchange for using our content and their education technology products. We are a mission-oriented organization, and our mission is to improve educational access and learning for everyone. Our main area of work involves publishing a library of over 60 free, online, peer-reviewed, openly licensed textbooks for both K-12 and college courses. Since publishing our first textbook in 2012, we have saved students over $2.9 billion in textbook costs. Openstax textbooks are an example of OER, or Open Educational Resources, which our wonderful presenters will dive into that definition a bit more later. Openstax textbooks are aligned to course topics and outcomes and to the standard scope and sequence requirements of their respective courses, making them incredibly easy to implement into your existing course. Like traditional textbooks, our textbooks are written by experienced and expert faculty and undergo an extensive peer review and revision process to ensure that the content is accurate, representative of diverse student audiences, and easy for students to understand. We publish our textbooks for free in online web view and downloadable PDF formats, and we also sell low-cost print versions of our textbooks through our Amazon book page and campus bookstores. Additionally, Openstax textbooks undergo regular errata and currency updates. Instructors, students, and any person using an Openstax textbook can submit an errata suggestion through our website for our subject matter experts to review. All of these errata suggestions and our decisions on those changes, whether or not they were implemented by our authors or not, are all available on our website, highlighting OpenStax's open revision process. Lastly, OpenStax textbooks are openly licensed and customizable to meet your course needs. Ultimately, OpenStax textbooks look a lot like traditional textbooks that are out there. However, unlike textbooks that aren't OER, OpenStax textbooks are 100% free online and are available under a Creative Commons license, allowing instructors to add content, revise the content, rearrange the content, remove content, do what they need to do to meet their students' needs. Lastly, OpenStax is more than just a textbook. Each textbook comes with free instructor and student resources, like course cartridges for your learning management system, test banks, solution manuals, lecture slides, and more. We also offer free webinars like this one, as well as helpful articles on the OpenStax blog about tips for using OpenStax resources, interviews with our authors, articles about thought leadership topics in higher education, and more. Our support center is also an excellent resource to turn to if you have any questions about OpenStax resources. Lastly, as I mentioned earlier, we understand that education technology products are critical for learning, especially in today's frequently hybrid learning environment. So we partner with over 80 education technology organizations to offer low cost or even free edtech products alongside our textbooks. OpenStax even offers our own free education technology product called Assignable Beta for our life sciences courses. On that note, I'm going to pass it over to the Open Education Lab.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our little presentation on Ontario Tech U's Open Education Lab. My name is Pranjal Saloni, and I am the Open Education Lab coordinator. And I've got my team members here, Zainab Numani, Nupa, Divya Sharma, and Alina Shahid. And we're all joining from Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. And this is where our Ontario Tech University is located. So before I get started, I just want to acknowledge our lands a little bit. Ontario Tech University is located in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, and we acknowledge the lands and people of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. We are thankful to be welcomed on these lands in friendship. The lands we are situated on are covered under the Williams Treaties and the traditional territory of the Mississaugas, a branch of the Greater Anishinaabe Nation, including Algonquin, Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi.
Good morning, everyone. Myself, Nupa Kriakos, and I've been working as an OER content developer with the team at Ontario Tech University for over 2 years now. I'm currently in my final year of electrical engineering at Ontario Tech University. So I'm going to give a quick, brief overview on what is OER. So OER stands for Open Educational Resources, which refer to freely accessible and openly licensed educational materials that can be used for teaching, learning, and research. These resources include a wide range of content, such as textbooks, videos, interactive modules, and so on. We can all agree on the financial value of OER in their ability to provide students with cost-free quality resources to help them through their educational journey. Much of how the OER ecosystem is supported is through financially based structures. Institutions give grants to faculty in order to create and release OER. Others pay to release their papers through open access journals. So when we talk about OERs or open educational resources, I want to start by saying, focusing on two terms, free and openly licensed. So free, when we say free resources that are free of cost and can be used and changed. So free versus open. So To start with, free means they are free of cost and openly licensed. Are educational materials that are openly licensed and can be changed or used with any restrictions or without any restriction because they are openly licensed. And these resources are not just limited to textbooks, but can be designed to meet a wide variety of needs, especially within educational resources, especially within educational institutions, ranging from faculty handbooks, test banks, and whatnot. While we are on this topic, I want to touch base on a very common misconception that we come across when we talk about open educational resources. That is, free versus open. Is it really the same thing, or is there really a difference? So, as I mentioned before, a resource is free if it's accessible. If it's freely accessible at no cost. But on the other hand, when we say open resources, it should be openly licensed in a way that we can adapt it, combine it with other resources, or share it. So a free resource need not be open unless it's openly licensed. So yeah, thank you.
You might be on mute.
Can you hear me now? Oh, hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay. Sorry about that. So the 5 R's and what they are. So the open resources can be broken down into, I'm not sure, can you see the slide? Let me just push it. It's a little hard to see. Everything's a little small. Okay, perfect. So open resources can be broken down into 5 R's: retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute. So what do these mean? So the first thing is retain. So with open resources, you have the right to make your own, to own and make copies of the resources you have, and you can keep them forever. Reuse means that you have the right to use the resource for your own purposes. Revise means that you have the right to adapt and change the resource how you see fit. Remix, you have the right to combine the resources with other ones, and redistribute, you have the right to share the resources with others. And again, these rights are made possible through open licensing. Open licensing allows you as a creator of an OER to retain the copyright of your own work, while still allowing others to use that content according to those 5 R's and your own specifications. So what is the value of it? I can move on. I think you guys can see my slide now. So OER offers both student and faculty more flexible than a traditional textbook can, especially on the faculty side of things. Because OERs are built to be adapted and changed, you can cater the content to fit your students specifically. That can be switching the order of the chapters in a book to better fit your specific course, adding or removing chapters that aren't relevant to you, and so on. We've already mentioned OERs are free to access, so by using them, you'll be saving your students money that they might otherwise have to spend on a textbook or other resources. Because OERs can take different forms, many of them with a digital component, students are able to develop their digital literacy skills by engaging with them. And these are skills that they might not be able to practice in the same extent if they're learning from a traditional textbook. If they're learning just from a traditional textbook, similarly, then since the main goal of OER and open education in general is to reduce barriers to access, OERs can be designed with accessibility needs and at the forefront, and so we can have this kind of built-in support for learners with different needs. It also ensures that OERs are current because you don't have to wait for the publishers to release a new edition of the material. You can update the resource yourself as new information becomes available. And finally, OERs are built to be collaborative. You can construct an OER with your colleagues across disciplines and get the variety of experience and perspective you need for a more comprehensive resource. So there are a few challenges, obviously, with the OER. Yeah. So I'm sure that those of you in this chat who have engaged with OER on your campuses find these questions very common. I'm sure there are others, but we really heard that the faculty want to create an OER, but one of the major barriers of doing them is the lack of time, and on top of that, already heavy teaching, research, and service commitments. Now, I love OER. I think they're important and necessary, but they're not challenge free. And when you're thinking about using OERs in your teaching, it's important to consider some of the challenges you might face. So, first of all, there's intellectual property. For a resource to be open, it needs to be made from openly licensed content or materials. If you're just starting out, you may not know where to find these kinds of materials or even what open really means. And we'll be discussing that in a bit very shortly. There are also infrastructural challenges. OER needs to be edited, stored, shared, and published, and that's a lot of work for one person if you're trying to create an OER on your own. Similarly, making a high quality OER takes time. And if you're already busy with teaching, professional development, and living your life, it can be hard to find the time to make the OER that you want to make. And lastly, ensuring the quality of resources can be a challenge, especially if you're teaching a very specific subject that may not have many existing OERs available. Lack of resources are another one, and it's important to remember that lack of resources isn't limited to the number of OERs you can find to fit your purpose. It can also be about not having the financial resources to build an OER on your own, or not having human resources or someone to help you through the process, and a lack of awareness and know-how. Now, with all of that in mind, it's important to remember that you're not doing this alone. The Open Education Lab was built to address these challenges, and we're here to support you in your OER journey, no matter what form it takes.
Thanks, Nupa. Thanks, Zainab. So now I'm going to be talking a little bit about our Open Education Lab at Ontario Tech and the inner workings of a student-run Open Education Lab. So we can all agree on the financial value of OER in their ability to provide students with cost-free quality resources to help them through their educational journey. Much of how the OER ecosystem is supported is through financial-based structures. Institutions give grants to faculty in order to create and release OER. Authors pay to release their papers through open access journals. But what if we thought of a way to change how we talk about the sustainability of the OER ecosystem by looking not only at the value of the value for the student we make OER, but also for the ones that are making the OER. Produced, this is how I like to kind of introduce our lab. Produced by students, for students, the Ontario Tech OER Lab is a student-run, staff-managed group that brings content and technological expertise to the creation of high-quality OER that will be used directly in an Ontario Tech course by Ontario Tech students. It engages faculty experts with trained students, publishing staff, to generate high-quality OER while providing an incredible experimental learning opportunity. So the defining characteristics of our lab is that it is created with students and for students. The needs of our students were built into the concept of the lab. So we also needed students to have some input when creating our resources. It is a student-run, staff-managed group, as I have already mentioned. Students working with us gain valuable project management, content development, for example, writing, editing, media creation, and communication skills, which they can then use for their not only in their educational journey, but in the future when they go and explore the world outside. The Open Education Lab creates resources such as textbooks, images, videos like TED Talks, articles, software, test banks, pedagogy, anything that is educational and anything that we can really release open so that our students can then access it free of cost. So we employ our students, student staff through the University Works program here at Ontario Tech, which is a branch of financial aid at Ontario Tech focused on providing students with part-time job placement. So I started my journey with the Open Education Lab as a part-time university work students, just like the other folks here on the call. I was a content developer and hence had a chance to create various OER for different subject areas. Once I graduated, which was June of 2022, so last year, not too long ago, I knew it is something that I wanted to continue doing. I learned something new every day. About teaching and learning aspect of things. Students working with us, as I mentioned, have gained valuable project management experience, and I think that is what really helped me to take upon my roles and responsibility with the lab after graduation. So there are two main reasons behind the creation of the lab. One being to support the needs of our students and faculty in a stressful and frightening time. And second, to break down the barriers preventing us from making our institution more open in the long term. And the only way to really meet both those goals was to start our student-focused lab. So our lab set up like a traditional commercial publishing house. The lab sources clients and authors who will identify the OER they need for their courses, help create or locate source materials. Otherwise, we do that. We're awesome at that as well. They also act as the subject matter expert during review phases. So once we create something for them, we send it for review so then they can use their expert knowledge in the topic to kind of suggest us feedbacks and stuff like that. The lab team is comprised of students who develop editorial content and multimedia under the direction of graduate students and staff like I. The result is high quality, institutional driven context based OER created by students for students. So there's this one quote that I really like, and I'm not sure who this quote is by, but I can guarantee you that our lab has got credits for it. And I think it was a quote from Rebecca, who was also a part-time student who then joined the Teaching and Learning Center at Ontario Tech upon graduation. And she says, in this way, it has been estimated that 2 billion hours of academic labor by students is wasted every semester as they exert significant cognitive effort on assignments that are graded and eventually discarded. And the reason I like this so much is because it kind of gives you an understanding of why when professors and teachers ask students to create assignments, why students may sometimes not do the best because they know that they're eventually going to be graded and then discarded. So then we thought of something, and we thought of why not if we make these assignments open. And so we took this idea upon to some of our faculty members, and they really liked it. And some of our professors are even doing it now. So some of our health science professors and social sciences professors, what they've done is that when they ask students to make their assignments, they then get a release form from their students so that they can make those assignments open, and then they come to us with those assignments, and then we publish them openly through open license on Pressbook. And I really like this, and the reason I mentioned this here on this webinar is because this is, I think, one of the simplest way we can take a step towards open education, to just make these assignments open. And I think I really like that idea. So yeah, now I'm going to be passing along the mic to our content developer, Divya, who will be talking a little bit about our Open Education Lab goals.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Divya Sharma, and I'm a third year mechanical engineering student. So our lab goals are very simply stated, as you can see on the screen. We have 4 major goals, which include offering publishing support for faculties in OER creation. We also advocate for open education and for OERs in general. We also provide support for students seeking different opportunities. And finally, we provide paid employment options for students who are interested in creating OERs. So we will be. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Sorry. So I've got four students, part-time students who also manage school along with their work at the Open Education Lab, and I just wanted to kind of give them a little bit of the stage to share their experiences. So any lessons you guys have learned, explain how the skills you've gained from working at the lab could benefit your future education and career as well. And anyone can start. Maybe Divya, you can go first because you're already unmuted.
Sure. So I would say the major lessons I've learned from the lab specifically is that it is a genuinely student-run lab. So we get to lead project ideas. It is a very encouraging environment, which is very nice because in doing so, you also get some project management experience. You build your confidence, which obviously translates very well into the real world when we go off into our careers. So I would say the leadership opportunities and the ability to have a free and open dialogue for idea generation is a very unique experience, and one that I generally appreciate.
Would anyone else like to share? Zainab, Nupa?
Yeah.
Sure, I can go next. I'll give a little bit background about myself. So I joined the lab in May of 2021. So during that time, I finished my second year. I was working full time over the summer. Then I was able to be a work study student during the academic year as well. So after my third year of university, I started working as a design engineering intern with Ontario Power Generation. So I started that role, I was in the role for around 16 months, and there were a lot of projects or work I did there that had a lot to do with my experience I had working with the team. So I would like to share a few examples to make it more so our database in Ontario Power Generation is Asset Suite 9. So we do all the work, any information we need to know about a project or any project related info, we get it and store it in Asset Suite 9. So relating it back to OER, we do a lot of projects that deals with creating guides for students on various websites and various online platforms like Canvas, Pressbooks, used by students in our university. So we create a lot of guides that help students on how to navigate through various platforms, like online platforms. So when I started my role there, because Asset Suite 9 is kind of like a Bible for all of us, I started preparing guides on different tasks I was dealing with. For example, issuing a document through Asset Suite, getting a document number. So these are things that are very easy to get if you know how to do it. So, but a lot of my peers who start new, they had no idea on how to use the software like Asset Suite 9. So I started making guides for each of this, and just like how I make guides with OER for students, I did the same. So I was really able to apply those editing, proofreading, those skills that I've gained during my OER work experience and apply it in an engineering world. So that's something I'm really proud of. And connecting with that, in my first year, after I joined OER, the first project I did was first year repository, where we collected all first year, mainly engineering courses related resources, open resources for students. And we made a first year engineering repository. So just linking it back to my work experience, during my work term, by the end of my work term, I was able to create a repository similar to that on almost all the guides I have used during my work term on various technical related guides, technical work related guides, and various resources that I use. So by the end of my work term, I was able to create a repository for my team, and which could help the future new people who joined the team, right? So that's something I took the initiative because I was like, in my OER work experience, I did the same, where we create like faculty handbooks for professors with outlining the various resources provided by university. So these are things like someone could spend a lot of time on in their first year as a student. But if they have a guide which outlines all the resources, it's worth it. So I feel like when I started my first year, I wish I had something like that. So when I joined OER, that project on creating for faculty handbook for engineering students is something that I'm really proud of when I think back, because and connecting to my work experience where I created a similar repository that support like new people who join the workforce as an engineer, right? So these are invaluable skills experience that I gained while working with the team, and that's why I'm still part of the team for almost like 2.5 years. And these are some when we talk about engineers, it's not just the technical expertise. It has a lot to do with the soft skills like project management, collaborate, and not just that. Like when we talk about like the various projects we deal with, it has a lot of stakeholder involvement, right? Like we deal with faculty members and professors and understand their needs. What do they really want from us from the team, so that at the end of the day, once we are done with the project, they are happy with the result, right? The same applies to an engineering role as well. We work with stakeholders. That proper communication and a collaborative work environment is very important. So those skills that I'm still acquiring during my work term here, I'm so confident that after I graduate, I'll continue supporting my peers with those experiences I've gained. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nupa. Alina, Divya, would you guys like to speak on it? Sorry, Divya, I think you did. Zainab and Alina. If not, then we can move on. Are we good to move on?
I think everyone said what needed to be said.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think, Nupa, you did mention a little bit of engineering. So we've got most of our students are engineers here from an engineering background, other than Alina. She's in health science. And I think one of the things that really attracts us all towards open education so much is because we don't have any OERs for our faculties. Not that I've come across at least any good ones. So I think that's why we're so keen on creating these resources so that our future students can hopefully use it. So I'm gonna now pass along the mic to Alina, who will be talking a little bit about how we bring open educational practices into our lab.
Hi everyone, as you know, my name is Alina Shahid. As Pranjal stated, I'm in my second year of medical laboratory science, and I'll basically be explaining what open education/open educational practices are. They basically represent a transformative approach to learning and strives to make education more accessible, inclusive, and affordable by reducing barriers such as high cost of textbooks and outdated learning practices or materials. By providing free or low-cost educational materials, OEP encourages educators and institutions to share their knowledge openly, fostering a community educators and learners who collaborate, adapt, and improve upon educational resources. By incorporating technology, OEP enhances innovating teaching and learning approaches and facilitates interactivity and idea sharing. Furthermore, here are some ways that we bring OEP into our OER creations. An example could be like creating exam questions, digital storytelling, creating an OER, and furthermore.
Thank you, Alina. So yeah, as I mentioned, this is where we also could bring in those assignments and stuff like that to really bring these open education practices into our OER. So now I've got some really interesting projects that we can share with you all, some of the ones that we worked on. And for that, I will need to share my screen, so just bear with me for a moment. All right, so you should all be now seeing the Learning Innovation Pressbook Sandbox, and this is where we publish, not under the not under the sandbox, but this is Pressbook is where we publish most of our or all of our um, educational resources that we've created. And I just wanted to show you folks some really cool ones. So there's one that we created for so one which we call Moon of the Crusted Snow. It's a reading guide to a book, and I think it's written by an Indigenous author. So if you go in, you could see that we've got our chapters, and this is again all open. It's a reading guide, so anyone who's reading the book can then refer to the reading guide to kind of really further understand the book itself. And I think it's one of my favorites because it's a book written by an Indigenous author, so it kind of brings in that aspect of things as well. Another one that I really like is anatomy and physiology for anatomy and physiology that we created for an anatomy and physiology course. Let me see if I can find it because we've got so many here. Ah, there we go. And again, one of the reasons why I like it so much, and not just I think all of the students here working, here on the call with me will also agree, is because it's just so awesome when you look at it, because these interactive, it's got a lot of interactive activities for students to practice exam questions or assignments and stuff like that. So we've got some flashcards, a lot of flashcards, some drag and drop type of questions where, you know, they can drag and drop. Drag and drop terms into the diagram. And forgive me for stuttering so much, is because I'm not a health science major. So as soon as I see anything that is health sciencey, I'm just like, oh, what are these terms? But yeah, I think it's really cool because if I got these as a student, I think I would really enjoy it. So you can see these are that. We've also got a few others. So we've got a business math textbook that we created a long time ago. We also create a lot of tech guides. So the interactive videos were created with using H5P, which could then be embedded into your Canvas and dashboards and stuff like that. So you can see we kind of first talk about what H5P is, and really the reason why we create these tech guides is to really give an opportunity for professors and students who know a little bit about open education but don't know where to get started, or know a little bit about H5P and these interactive activities but again don't know how to get started. These H5P activities are super simple to make. So our effort in creating the reason we created this guide is to kind of push professors to have a look at it, to see, hey, it's not that difficult. It can be created by you folks as well. But again, if you don't have the time, we're always here. And yeah, so these are some of the cool projects that I wanted to show. If you have any questions regarding the project or would like to know more about these projects, you can always email us at oer@ontariotechU.ca. You will see the email address at the end after our presentation anyways. Or once we're done our webinar, you can also either unmute your mic or send it in the chat regarding any project, any questions regarding the projects you have. So I just wanted to take a little bit more time to talk about our impact report. So as we mentioned, the lab was created in 2020. However, Ontario Tech University did engage in some creation of OER since 2018. And so we've saved over 1.2 million in student savings since 2018. And this includes almost all faculties, so faculty of science, health science, social sciences, faculty of education, and faculty of business and IT. I am not mentioning faculty of engineering because we don't have a lot of resources, and so we may not have been able to help students save a lot in that. But the good news is the Open Education Lab is going to be working on our first engineering open resource next winter of 2024, and that is for a circuits course. So we're going to be creating a lot of these circuit diagrams and stuff like that, again using H5P and other softwares. For then that could be used in a circuits course for engineering students. And some other really cool projects that we're working on is one that we just completed, which is a 3D printed dissections of these zoology models. So our client came to us and she wanted us to create paper versions of these dissections that her students do. So dissections of worms, butterflies, whatever it is. And she wanted us to create paper versions of it. So what we did was first sketch it, then print it out, cut, paste, fold, did a little bit of trial and error, and now we have this awesome resource created for zoology students, where students can go ahead, access our resource, print out whatever model they're working on. They will have to print it out themselves, not 3D print. These are paper versions. I will be talking a little bit about 3D later on, but print these paper versions and then cut, fold, paste to not create dissections, but reverse dissections, which is like put them back in the right space. And now our next idea is to take it a step forward and create 3D versions of these. So create 3D models, then 3D models so that students can either, again, take apart these models or reverse dissect, which is put them back in place. Some of the education tech guides that I have already shown, these are some really cool ones as well. And another project that we're working on is nursing math. So when we were looking into some of the nursing math, we didn't find a lot of great resources. So then we took it upon ourselves to create these great resources. I apologize for my dog yelling in the background. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this.
It was I've got two dogs and they were all going crazy. So I wanted to just send them out from my room. Again, some of the things about working from home. But before we end, I just wanted to share with you some of the OER repository here for the folks on the call. These are some of the really awesome ones that we use, and they've got some really, really amazing resources for open education. So eCampus, BC Campus, Openstax, obviously, OER Commons, and yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. So as I promised, here is our little contact information. If you would like to follow up with any questions, anything, you can always reach out to us at oer@ontariotech.u.ca. Thank you again. And Lindsay, I believe it's your birthday today. So I just want to say happy birthday. Thank you so much for doing this on your birthday. And I hope our presentation made your birthday a little better. And
no, of course. Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. It has made my birthday very special so far. It's been wonderful learning from all of you, and our audience feels the exact same way. And we actually have a few questions for you and the rest of the Open Ed Lab in the chat. And so one question we have is, are the materials that the Open Education Lab publishes available to the public on an OER repository? For example, OER Commons, Merlot, or a repository that Ontario Tech manages?
Yes, so not all of our projects are, but a few of our projects are available on eCampus. eCampus, I believe, is the only platform where they are available, other than being available online. But then for that, you'd need like the link or whatever. But yeah, eCampus, we've got a few of our projects, not all of them.
Awesome. Thank you. And another question we have is, I'm interested in the A&P H5P activities. How do you find these? On the Openstax website, on the Open Education Lab website?
So you will find the H5P interactivities you will be able to find them at our on our Ontario Tech U's website under OER Lab and the projects that they've worked on. Again, with that also, we're in the process of kind of updating our website. So some of the projects are there, some new ones might not be there. But if you are interested, what I could do is I can even drop it in the chat. I can drop the link in the chat for you to kind of access it for now. But Lindsay, would you be able to help me? I lost the chat portion of it and I can't find it anymore. I see
not a problem.
attendees list, but I don't know how to get to the chat.
Not a problem. So if you just want to like email me the information, you can do that, and I can put that in the chat and then also send it in the follow-up email we send out, because I'm sure other folks may be interested in that as well.
Yeah, so what I could do is I can send you the presentation slides, as well as some of the projects that we've mentioned, including the H5P interactivity, the H5P interactivities, and then you can just share it with everyone. But yeah, as I said, most of our projects that we worked on a couple years are still on our Ontario Tech website, just not the new ones because we haven't uploaded those.
Awesome. Thank you. And another question we have in the chat is, do you have textbooks for high school? So I think both OpenStax and the Open Ed Lab can answer this one. So from the OpenStax front, OpenStax does offer textbooks for high school and K-12 courses, and you can find those on our website, and I'll put the link to the OpenStax website in the chat. But for the OE Lab, can any of your resources be used in high school courses, or is it primarily directed towards college courses?
So most of our resources, actually all of our resources, are directed as of now towards universities and colleges. I assume some of our first year, so some of the resources that we created for our first year students for their first year courses could still be used in grade 11, grade 12, high school level, only because, again, with OERs not being so prominent, some of the resources we gather are high school level plus university / college level. So first year resources could be a combination of both, where high school students could perhaps use it. But right now our lab is just purely focused towards university and college. However, we've been talking about K-12 as well. And that is something that we are open to exploring in the future, just not something that we've done yet.
Perfect. Thank you so much for answering that. I don't see any other questions for our presenters in the chat. In the chat, I put in the link to the Open Ed Lab website, as well as the OpenStax website for folks that would like to take a look at that. But if anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to share them in the chat or the Q&A box. But I really want to extend a huge thank you to our wonderful presenters today, Pranjal, Divya, Nupa, Zainab, and Alina. This was a really excellent presentation. We learned so much, the audience learned so much, and we really want to thank you for the incredible work that you're doing to save students literally millions of dollars and create OER for them and other folks at Ontario Tech. It's really amazing work. So definitely keep us updated on the great things you're going to do.
Of course, thank you. And I just want to mention our lab is not just for Ontario Tech University. So if folks are interested in kind of like they've got an idea on an OER, but they don't have a lab at their college or university, we're here. We're what we do is our aim is to create OERs for students. It doesn't matter if they're from Ontario Tech or not. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions after the fact, please send an email to support@openstax.org, and I will re-put the email for the Open Ed Lab in the chat. So if folks have any questions for the lab, you can always send them an email at their email address, oer@ontariotechu.ca. Thank you again so much to our presenters and our wonderful attendees. We really appreciate your time today and your thoughtful questions and feedback. So if folks have, like I mentioned, if folks have anything else they want to ask after the fact, you can always send us an email. But thank you all so much, and I hope everyone has a really excellent rest of their day.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lindsay. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lindsay.